Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Quantum Prophet. I'm Kevin, your, quantum prophet. And this is my second video, my second official video, and today I'm going to be talking about the Divine Feminine. I want to start off by thanking everybody who took the time to watch my first video, the people who left comments, all the great encouragement and feedback I got. I really appreciate it. It was very humbling to me. I expected to get maybe like 10 views, and half of those being family members that I coerced and guilted into watching it. So to have over 50 views is just really awesome, and I'm humbled and very grateful to you. So thank you all for doing that. I did a little informal poll on Twitter and asked people what they would like me to talk about in my second video, and actually prophecy won. However, by direct messages, texts from some family members, some different people, everybody said they'd like to hear about the Divine Feminine. And after I thought about it a little bit more, that kind of makes more sense anyway, because the concept of the Divine Feminine is so foundational to spirituality as a whole, to prophecy, to what's going on in the world today, what's been going on in the world for thousands of years, that I think it's really important that we do talk about that. A little disclaimer, I am not one of those people who likes to argue points or debate or do a bunch of defending my position. So this is a talk on mysticism and mystical stuff. So a lot of it's subjective. If someone disagrees with things I say or doesn't like it, feel free to leave whatever comments you do and question, but I probably won't do a lot of arguing and debating, because a lot of this is subjective, and I encourage you to make your own interpretations, to do your own research and studies and see what it means to you. I'm hoping to share some of my experience and my thoughts and beliefs, but again, I don't claim to know or have all the answers to everything. So if you try to debate and argue with me, you'll probably just hear me say, you're right, whatever. So not to be dismissive, but just to lay that out there. So if you're part of the UFO Twitter community, you know there's been a ton of infighting on there and people just going at each other, and I just don't want this to become that. So in that spirit, and with that being said, let's talk about the Divine Feminine. So I'm going to try to hopefully bring up here in my video magic skills that I'm getting better at a little image of the yin-yang symbol, which I think is a nice place to start with talking about what the Divine Feminine is. So the Divine Feminine, when we talk about that, we're basically talking about God. So we're talking about God, Source, Creator. We can't necessarily be talking about God like Allah or Jehovah or any of those, because pretty much all of the Abrahamic faiths are sausage fests. I mean, if you think about it, it's all guys, all God, all the time. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about a higher I don't know about higher, but a more refined or more complete concept of God or a higher power, which is a being that has aspects of both polarities. So you'll get to know that I'm very big on the hermetic tradition, and the hermetic tradition believes very much in oneness and all is one is all, that type of stuff. There are 7 hermetic principles out there, which I encourage you to go look at. I'll probably put a link in the bottom to the video, but I believe very strongly they're very almost a scientific feeling to them. I mean, they're just very practical. But anywho, so when we talk about the Divine Feminine, we're talking about the feminine aspect of Creator or God. So if I have this yin-yang symbol up, which hopefully you see, this is a classic symbol of the universe, of God, whatever, creation. And you can see here that it says that the outer circle represents the universe and everything in it, and the small circles inside, which a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to, those symbolize that each aspect has a seed or a part of the other one in it. So the yang being the white, the positive, and again, not positive thinking good and bad, but the white symbolizes the male aspect, which symbolizes active, light, dominating strength. You know, that classic warrior, the guy on the protective father. But if you notice inside the yang, there's a circle of black, which is the yin. So inside of that, there is a seed of the yin. And in the yin, which symbolizes the female energy, and this would symbolize the Divine Feminine, the female energy is more aligned with passivity, intuitiveness, so You know, you think Oracle of Delphi, the intuitive, creative, stillness. So that would be our divine feminine, or some characteristics of it. So, and inside the yin, the divine feminine is a little bit of a white circle, which symbolizes that each, just as it says there, each small inner circle represents that everything carries the seed of its opposite. So, and in this symbol, keep in mind that this is the way that it is, quote unquote, is, or it's supposed to be. This is the perfect representation of balance in the universe. So you've got your masculine energy in the white, you've got your feminine energy in the black. They're both coexisting, they're both equal in volume, and they each have a little seed of each other in it. So that's balance, right? So the divine feminine, what we're talking about in regards to this talk today is how, particularly in the Western tradition, and again, going back to the Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and even in a lot of the indigenous traditions too have tended to go a little more male-oriented. There's a very strong trending towards all masculine all the time. I mean, you don't even need to look that hard. The Bible, God is a dude. I mean, it's he, worship him, God the Father. I mean, even the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. It's either three dudes or two dudes and a non-binary, right, person or whatever entity. So, you know, the divine feminine doesn't even get a seat at the divine Trinity, in the Holy Trinity, right? So, but if you think to yourself about it a little bit, if you're a scientific person at all, or you're, just logical, it would only make sense that if there really is a creator, if there really is some divine source, it has to have both energies. It's almost unfathomable to think that an infinite creator would just be all masculine, because that's imbalanced. I mean, there are those other aspects of humanity, and we need those to balance things out, to balance us out. So I'm not entirely sure why, but well, actually, let me step back a second. So if we go back way back to the first, what they think, some people think, and I tend to agree with, the birth of like religion or spirituality, and we look at some of the first human figures ever created by humankind. I was almost said mankind, but see, mankind. It's even in all of our language, mankind. It's not humankind. Why is it mankind? Why isn't it human? They had to just make it a dude thing. Again, it's pervasive. You'll see the more we talk about this. So when you go back in history of humankind, you'll see that they have these figurines called the Venus figurines. And again, hopefully I'll have an image up here. You've probably seen these if you've done any type of digging around the web or heard of them in passing, but basically the gist is that ancient cultures going back 33,000, 26,000 years created these figurines of a female, and they think that those basically symbolize the epitome, or the archetype, or however you want to put it, the symbol of basically the divine feminine, the life-giving force. It's not too hard to see how ancient humans would have thought that women, or the feminine aspect, was the life-giving force, because people literally came from women, and that had to be pretty miraculous. I mean, I watched the birth of my kids, and that was miraculous. It was incredible. I mean, to think that it could even happen. It also made me really glad I'm not a woman. So sorry, I'm just being truthful there. I have so much appreciation and respect for women. So women, you guys are awesome. But anyway, so these Venus figurines basically indicate that ancient peoples really worshipped, respected, highly regarded women. And if you look back at some of the older religions and traditions you see in Druidism, paganism, ancient Egypt, ancient Babylonia, you see goddesses like Isis, you see Mat, you see Ishtar, you see in the paganism, it's goddess worship. So the divine feminine had quite a seat at the table. In fact, it could be argued that the divine feminine aspect, the intuitive nature, that kind of dark, mysterious, that there was respect for the divine feminine. We'll put it that way. There was much greater balance, because in Egypt, there were also male gods. There was Ra, there was Horus, but there were always female ones too. There was more balance, Um, so then you come along to right around the time Christianity started. And again, this isn't to say Christianity did it, because even before then in Judaism, earlier, I mean, the whole God thing came about long before Christianity, God being male oriented, or did it. We don't know who really created the Bible and edited it. That's a whole other rabbit hole. But anywho, around the time that Christianity came around, you really see a hard turn in a very, I'm going to say, deliberate effort to just totally write the divine feminine right out of the story. I don't necessarily think that in ancient Judaism, like back in the times of, say, Abraham and Moses and stuff, I kind of think there probably were some writings or some teachings that had the divine feminine in there. The Gnostics and the Essenes and different traditions had the concept of Sophia, which is wisdom, which was seen as a feminine archetype, and they maintain those. But I think that there was a little editing done in the Bible at some point to just basically completely write out the divine feminine. And there are other researchers and spiritual historians who kind of get that same vibe. And I mean, it's just not hard to see that there's, you have Mary, right? The Jesus's mom, and people pray to her. And I am not demeaning or belittling anyone who comes from a tradition of Catholicism or Christianity. Each and every faith has its own beauty and its own wonder, and I greatly respect all of them. I'm only coming from what I see as women got screwed over, like the divine feminine got totally hosed by men throughout the centuries. And so, Mary being the mother of Jesus, she has that, like, we pray to her, people pray to her, pray for us and help us, but she doesn't really have like that power, you know what I mean? She's just still kind of subservient to God and to everybody else. And it's in the other religions too. I'm not an expert in Islam, but it's not hard to see that in Islamic culture, women don't have, and this is where it kind of transitions from the religion into culture. So if you think about going back to Christianity, men, by making God a man, by saying God is he, him, whatever, the story of how women were created, I mean, excuse my French, I try to keep these child friendly, but it's just such bullshit. I mean, God made man and then took a rib out of man and made a woman. So all woman is some cast off little bone from a man. I don't believe that crack for a minute, okay? If you're a supreme being, you are going to create the woman first, because the women are who give birth to more species. So you would create a woman, you could artificially inseminate a woman and keep, if you had a sperm bank, with tons of deposits, you could have a couple women and keep humanity going forever or whatever. But if you have a guy, what do you have? So the idea that a supreme being would create a man and then, let's take in some little chunk. Why didn't they say they cloned the man and then altered his DNA to make a woman, or they created both at the same time? So I personally believe, my hunch is that the Bible was edited a long time ago by someone, some people, whoever, to basically give men full control and to write the divine feminine right the hell out of there. Basically just write it out. So if you look at the yin yang symbol, they just wanted it all white, just no balance, no divine feminine. That's what they wanted. And what came of that was what you look at in our world society. You look at the role of women for thousands of years. I mean, women just got the right to vote not all that long ago. Just think about that. Women in some countries and in many cultures have been considered just property. They're not even full citizens. I mean, you have women to this day make less money than men. It's just, again, in Islam and in some Muslim traditions that are really strict, women can't talk. They can't be in the same room as men. Same with Judaism. Christianity is the same way. Women couldn't be priests for hundreds of years. So, and where this plays into the divine feminine and what this topic all gets back to is that in squashing out the divine feminine and writing that out so men could control the world, what we get is a world, what we look at in our world today is a direct reflection of that hyper masculine, no divine feminine there to balance it out. And not just on, again, in hermetic traditions, as above, so below. There's the law of correspondences. So what happens here is a reflection of what happens on higher planes, and what happens on higher planes reflects here. So when you have a pantheon, when you have a God who's a man, there's no women at the table. It's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and Jehovah, and all these dudes. The total spiritual sausage fest of all time going on. What you get is a society where women are belittled, where they're demeaned, where they're degraded, where they have no value other than to serve men. You also get, so that's at that level, but then look at what's going on. Think about this for a minute. What do we call the earth? We call it Mother Earth, right? Why? The earth is seen as a female archetype because the earth gives life. Just as a woman gives birth to children, the earth gives birth to plants, to trees, to all living things, basically. The earth gives birth. The sun is seen as a masculine archetype. Why? Because the sun emits solar rays, which could be seen like little sperms, kind of, coming to impregnate the earth with that UV energy and create photosynthesis, which allows the earth to give birth to things. So we have a cosmic mirror of what that interplay looks like, right? When that interplay is out of balance, what's happening to Mother Earth? Well, just like what has happened to women throughout the ages and throughout society, the burnings of the witches and all that, being mistreated, not having the right to vote, yada, yada, yada. What's happening to Earth right now? Mother Earth. She is in peril. She's in trouble. The climate is changing rapidly. It's changing severely. And I don't think it's too difficult to see that what's happening to human women and what's happened to them has been reflected on what's happened to Mother Earth. Now, what's happened to human women, especially in the United States and some other countries over the last 100 years, is that they got pissed off. They rose up and said, you know, we're not taking this anymore. We are equal people. We have equal rights. We're just as smart as you. In fact, they're smarter. We all know, right? They're more responsible. Women are, I have no problem with women running the world. I really don't. Guys are just, you know, I'm just kidding, of course. I'm being hyperbolic. It's balance. Remember, balance. But I grew up with a single mom, okay? My mom was an E5 drill instructor in the Army National Guard, like for real. So I am team woman. I've always kind of gravitated more towards what women are interested in and stuff, which got me teased a lot and bullied a lot when I was a kid. But I'm okay with that because I like who I am today. So anyway, sidebar. Back to where we were. So women got pissed off and they've said, no, we're raising up. We want the right to vote. Now they're saying we want to make as much money as men. Well, yeah, they should. I mean, it's just logical. So what's happening with Mother Earth? Mother Earth's getting pissed off and saying, you know what? I don't want you to treat me this way anymore. I don't want you to just spill your filth onto me and emit all these carbon dioxide gases. I'm going to smack a fool around a little bit. You know, I'm going to show you what happens when I turn up the heat, when I crank up the temperature and do some rain. And, you know, Mother Earth has been so patient and so tolerant of the human race for so long. It is just amazing. But again, this is that law of correspondence, as above, so below. The divine feminine, that archetype, that energy is, I don't want to say coming back into power, but what I look at it like is this. It's kind of like, you know, the divine feminine and the divine masculine were like the divine feminine, which is Mother Earth, is kind of staying home, and Dad, who's whatever, said, I'm going to go out and, you know, go exploring around the galaxy, and I'll see you when I get back. And on the way back, he's getting a message saying, hey, the kids have really screwed up big time. They have totally abused me. They have totally shit all over me. They don't listen. They're not behaving. They're just whatever. And Dad's like, you know what? When I get back there, shit's going to go down. This is not going to stand. And that's where I think we are right now. I think what's happening with all these earth changes. Now, of course, it's not just a metaphysical thing, because we knew this was going to happen. Like I said in my last video, scientists are the prophets of the new age. Scientists have been telling us if we don't stop, this is going to happen. But there is, again, and this is the hermetic principles, the mystical principles, is as above, so below. I'm sorry I keep saying that, but just as it happens on the plane of human existence, where women are sick of it and are rising up, it's happening on a deeper level too, on a deeply spiritual level, where Mother Earth is rising up and saying, humans can't treat me this way anymore. And I believe, and other people have messaged me in this last week, and I've heard some really, it seems like the more people I talk to, the more people say that they're getting these messages, be it from their spirit guides, be it from people they know, like some people who aren't even in spirituality, saying our spirit guides are watching us, the archons are coming back, people who are more into the ET thing, like the aliens are coming back, God's coming back, whatever. And I said in my last video, kind of like the judgment's at hand, that masculine archetype, that protective father, not the one that's in control now, because the one that's in control now is like the bully. It's like the bully in like Back to the Future, like Biff or something. It's like that ugly bully, mean. It's the masculine archetype with no feminine at all, and it's just ignorance, willful ignorance, selfishness, violence, brutality, all that ugly stuff. That's what's in control. But there's another aspect of the divine masculine, which is more like, if you were to look at like Star Wars, again, that's something most people know, is more like the Yoda or the Obi-Wan Kenobi, the protective but more gentle side. That side is rising again. It really is. I believe it. So we all need to work on connecting with the divine feminine, and to realize that the divine feminine is coming back into manifestation. It's always been in manifestation, but she's coming to take her rightful place back, and it's about time. And there is going to be a time of great change. We are in a time of great change. After my last video, my daughter texted me and said, well, what do you think the judgment is going to be? Or is everybody going to die and stuff? And I don't necessarily think that. What's happening now, we're in the middle of that process right now. What I'm working on, and what I recommend other people do, is to connect with the divine feminine, to be aware of that divine feminine. And as I said before, it's not about gender. There are a lot of women I know who are not in connection with the divine feminine at all. There's a lot of men who would be embarrassed to, I'm not divine feminine there. I'm a manly man. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go watch football and drink beer and divine feminine. I ain't feminine. Whatever. The point is that we all need to get in contact with that divine feminine. And someone asked me in one of the questions, how do I do that? The best way I can think of is to think of Mother Earth. Think of the Mother Earth as the perfect incarnation, manifestation of the divine feminine, right under our feet, right above our heads, that we all have. It's very easy to connect with Mother Earth. She's very approachable. She's got a very open energy. Be aware, if you do connect with Mother Earth, and you do connect on a very deep level, there's some pain there. There is some sadness there, because she's been hurt. I mean, think about it. It's got to be pretty hurtful to know that humans have continued doing the stuff they are, knowing what was going to happen, knowing I was going to throw stuff out of whack, and still doing it. I mean, the way we treat the planet is just icky. I would like to know why they can't come up with a plastic bag that's completely biodegradable. I mean, that's just a simple solution that could impact the earth so positively. And I'm guessing, I'm pretty sure why. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to know. Money is what rules the world. But anyway, so if you want to connect with the divine feminine, connect with Mother Earth. Think about that energy. You can also connect through, if you are a Christian or you are a Catholic, think about Mary, think about the Divine Mother, connect with that spirit and what she means, that gentleness. If you're a Buddhist, Kuan Yin is a wonderful archetype, a divine feminine archetype that you connect with. There's, in the Native American traditions, they have several divine feminine archetypes. You can, Google it. You can Isis in the Egyptian, Google it, look up divine feminine archetypes, but find one to connect with and learn a little bit more about that. Do some research and find out what the divine feminine is and look at your concept of God. What is your God like? Is your God the total man, he? And no judgment if it is. I mean, I find myself saying, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I mean, that's what we in the Western world were taught. But that doesn't mean it has to be that way. And so to find that balance within ourselves, I challenge you and I ask you to think about your conception of God. And would you be open and willing to look at a God that has a divine feminine aspect? When I pray, I say, dearest mother, dearest Father God, to acknowledge that my God has equal parts of both. My God is part father and part mother. It's a unity that is both of those things. And like I said, I challenge you to look at your conception of God and see if you can see the divine feminine in there, and then look within yourself. And if you're, like I said, it doesn't matter what gender you are, if you're a man or a woman, see if you can see that divine feminine in yourself and how it manifests. See if it's being repressed in any way. It's probably more challenging for men, especially who are raised in hyper-masculine homes or work in hyper-masculine careers to make that connection. For some men, it's much easier. So, and the same for women, But I challenge you to make that connection and look into that. It's very important. I think the next video, I'm probably going to talk about prophecy and go into the prophecy a little bit more. I realize I kind of worried my daughter a little bit about talking about the judgment, and I'm sure some other people. And I really have, for me personally, this is a very exciting time to be alive. There's some really, truly wondrous things right around the corner, but it's not going to be easy getting there. Another thing that I always like to say is, the jocks and the athletes say, no pain, no gain. Again, the law of correspondences, that applies to the spiritual level too. No pain, no gain. You don't make a lot of spiritual progress by just laying around and saying prayers and doing alms and stuff. There's some struggle, but it's the good struggle. It's the good. To me, it's what gives life purpose and meaning. So, I've rambled on long enough. Hopefully this was good. I don't even know if I covered the divine feminine very well. I kind of got into a couple tangents there, but hopefully they were interesting or informative or useful. So I'm going to plop a couple links below the video so you can go look up some stuff on the divine feminine. I'm sure I have some good stuff on my blog too. I'm probably going to post a prayer that I wrote to the divine feminine that's pretty good if I do say so myself. And you can read that and get in touch with it. So thanks again for watching this. I really appreciate it, everyone. Like I said, hopefully these get better. If they don't, they will, or maybe not. I don't know. But they are what they are. Hopefully you got something out of it. I surely appreciate you taking the time to listen, and I look forward to getting to know some of you a little more on Twitter and leaving comments. I love the sharing of ideas, and this is truly a wondrous time to be alive as a human being. There's a lot of stuff happening now. A lot of things are coming to light that have been hidden in the darkness for a long time, and I do believe the veil is being lifted. People are hearing things they haven't heard in a long time, seeing things they didn't even believe could be seen, and I think more is going to be revealed as we go along. So hang in there. It's going to be an awesome ride. So thank you all. Peace, love, light, and many blessings to all of you.